Welcome to The Women We Know. I'm your host, Stacey Ferguson, and this podcast is all about real conversations with women in our lives who have stories worth sharing. Not the polished highlight reels, but the real moments, the challenges, the turning points, the courage, the growth, and the wisdom that comes from living a full life. My hope is that somewhere in these conversations, you'll hear something that reminds you that you're not alone and that the women around us are far more extraordinary than we sometimes realise. So wherever you are listening from, settle in, because these are the stories of the women we know. Welcome to The Women We Know. Today's guest is someone I've known since she was a little baby. I actually used to look after her at daycare at my house and at daycare through the little centre in town. And over the years, I've had the privilege of watching her grow into such an intelligent, grounded and thoughtful young woman. She's now working as a paramedic in Central West Queensland, supporting people through some of the hardest moments of their lives, while also creating a space online centred around health, wellbeing, self-awareness and healing through her platform, Remote Nourish by Brit. But beyond all of that, what I admire most about Britt is her honesty. Before we sit down and record our chat, I like to get to know my guests a little bit more by asking a few questions behind the scenes. And the way Britt opened up and spoke about burnout, relationships, grief, boundaries, healing, and learning to be yourself felt incredibly real. There was no performance, just genuine reflection and lived experience. I have to say, even though you're still young, Britt, you are wise beyond your years. And I think so many people are going to hear parts of themselves in this conversation. So Britney Hannay, welcome to The Women We Know.
Thank you, Stace. Thanks for inviting me on here. I feel very privileged to be able to share my journey. And like you said, it's only such at a young age. I feel like I have shaped and grown in many aspects. And becoming a paramedic, growing up, I never had a dream to be a paramedic, but looking back, I have not had a regret. It has shaped me in many ways, and I'm happy to elaborate on that today.
Yeah. And like I said, you were definitely wise beyond your years, and you always have been. You've kind of just, I don't know, you're like an old soul.
Yeah.
But
and I think I've always lived behind the thought of coming from a small town. I don't know if anyone else can relate to it, but that can shape you. I think the wiseness comes from when you come from a small town and, you grow up with people that so, you're talking to older people and you're engaging more with the community. So you're not as afraid to sort of take on everyone's learnings and experiences and socialize and stuff, because that was just normal for a small town girl.
Yeah, there's such a variety of people that you get to just rub shoulders with every day, whereas when you're kind of in a bigger place, you kind of seem to be rubbing shoulders with the people your own age, whereas in a small town, you have that opportunity to just run into, someone who's 70 down the shop or someone who's 14 and, it's just so there's so much variety.
Definitely. And I think when, going through school and stuff and, you've always got an early reputation from the get-go because, everyone knows who you are, and I know that person sort of thing. So that definitely formulated who you were early on. It definitely has shaped that today. And then obviously family as well. I've had not only my mum and dad and my brother, but I've had my grandparents and my cousins all around me as well. So I think that's sort of that wholesome family connection and, being orientated around that, which I've been so privileged to have that.
Yeah, your environment definitely shapes and molds who you are. So I love that you have grown up in the environment that you have, because I definitely think that it's made you who you are today. Britt, before we dive into the deep and the meaningful, I do need to ask something very important. Yes. What is your go-to karaoke song?
I've always sat on Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. And I think it's because you just know the song before it even starts the lyrics.
Mhm.
Like everyone knows fast car, and I feel like if it
Yeah.
comes on in the car, if it's, you know, I don't know, at a, you know, a pub, or it's, you know, in the shopping centre, I feel like everyone just
Mm.
knows every word to it.
Yeah. And are we talking that version? Tracy Chapman's the original, or are you going off track and doing a bit of Luke Combs?
I think the original is always
Mm.
the, you know, what
Yeah,
I
I have to
tend to listen
agree.
to. So
Luke Combs done a great job of it, but
yeah,
Tracy
yeah,
Chapman all the way for me.
yeah. And like I like a lot of her songs, so I think the original, yeah, I always like it
Mm,
better. So
yeah.
definitely.
All right, Brett. Well, I hope that kind of warmed you up a little bit. I know it always helps me feel a little bit like
Yeah,
kind of lets me sink in.
that definitely has made me feel like I can, as long as I have been on track, I feel comfortable being able
Yeah,
to talk
that's
about.
That's so good. Britt, I think that there is no better place to start than the beginning, seeing as though I've kind of known you. I actually remember my first memory of you was you in a pram, like you must have just been born. And yeah, and then I had the privilege of kind of looking after you at home when I done in-home daycare. And then when the town had Tuesday daycare, I worked there as well. So I've known you across many different stages of your life, from little Brit running around the daycare to the women that's sitting here today. What do you think shaped you most growing up?
I believe that I've just had experiences through my young adolescent, well, say teenage years, where I think I just wanted everything in one setting. Like in my mind, I was so passionate and so determined that I wanted this life for myself that obviously I wasn't going to get straight away. That
Mm,
I had these expectations, and I have gone through challenges with myself and with other people, whether that's relationships like friendships or, you know, partnerships or whatever, anything like that. I think I can say today that going through all that and having those expectations, I've been able to sort of filter out and then been like, yeah, that's good for me, that's not good for me, that makes me feel bad, that makes me feel good.
mm,
And having, I suppose, a friend like my mum who's been through so much and she's taught me so much with resilience, and then adding that silver lining with my paramedic job, just from growing up and trying to form this life early that I now honestly look back and go, she just needed to calm down. I definitely feel that, yeah, I've been able to navigate and filter things out in my life.
mm.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. And I can tell, like, and I know that you were raised with a strong work ethic as well. And I know that your parents are some of the hardest and most committed people that I know. Do you think that kind of helped form who you are? And what do you think that they taught you without actually sitting you down and saying it out loud, just by watching them?
I think it was just their determination in their business. You
Mm,
know, they just knew that they had to go to work to pay the bills, and, you know, they had to miss out on things to go to work to get things that they want for their future. And, you know, we're going through my adolescence, like, you know, it was looked at that we always had everything, but
mm,
people didn't always realize that, like, my dad had placed such a value on independence, and, you know, what you work for, you're going to appreciate. And so I think for me growing up, I always appreciated that, yeah, there might be this view on us having everything, but I want to be able to do it myself.
mm,
And, you know, I didn't want to think that I was going to finish school and then have to rely on my parents, simply because obviously cost of living was so high and is getting higher. And, you know, I didn't want to waste my young years of just relying on the fact that my mum and dad could provide for us. So,
mm,
you know, strongly influenced from my father that, you know, you're going to appreciate things if you work for them yourself. That, yeah, I feel like that helped me really go and push myself to get the things I wanted, because it was in behind closed doors. Like, you're told, like, you know, you're not going to get that unless you work for it.
mm. And I think that that's so obvious, like in the way that you've been raised, that you have that appreciation for the things that you have in life, and you can see that you have worked quite hard. And I think growing up, looking from the outside in, you could see that, you know, Britt, you're just this capable, driven, independent young woman. Do you think that being that capable person, and knowing that you have to, or that you work hard for what you get, and you have that desire to go out and get that on your own without the help of your parents, financially, I mean, they helped raise you, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah.
do you think being capable and being independent became part of your identity really young?
Yeah, I definitely feel there's some sort of form of that, especially because, yeah, how driven I felt from a very young age. I just feel like in myself, I've just had this, like, I've always wanted to take lead. And that's not to, I guess, be bigger or better than anyone, but I've just always had this fire in me just wanting to take lead all the time. And I've always shown that in anything I've done in school with leadership positions or anything in jobs that I've done. I've always tried to make things better and make a difference. And I think too, like, because my family and my mum and dad have been so involved in community clubs, which shapes a small town. And you see
Mm,
that through the efforts they put in, and they do it out of their own time. That's also another driven influence, that you see how much effort they put in. They're not even getting paid to do it. It's just the love that they have for the town. I've grabbed that from them, and I've seen that from them, and I'm like, well, nothing's going to change unless you do something. And this is where I've sort of driven myself.
mm. Yeah, and I can see that. What did success look like to you growing up?
I think success to me was just being able to stand on your own 2 feet, being able to go and do what you want to do comfortably, choosing right decisions in life that, were going to lead you forward. And whether or not you had interest in growing a family or, having a career that, took you places, but always still coming back to yourself and being humble and kind and nice, without
Mm,
that letting, without that sort of ego getting to you, that you are, you know, have grown your wings and you are from a small town, that you still come back to your senses.
yeah. Yeah. And do you think that that came from yourself, or do you feel like it came from wanting to make other people proud? Like, was that like something, a drive within you, or was it an outside drive of, I want to make this person proud, or I want to make myself proud?
I think I wanted to obviously make my family proud.
Mm,
But I think for myself, I just for a long time just never knew like what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. And so I think for a long time I just didn't feel connected to myself. Like I felt very like I was just going through this sort of journey, and was it just because like was I just doing it?
mm,
Or did it serve me a purpose? And I think, yeah, it was definitely for myself, because I now am feeling so at peace and so comfortable and understanding that, yeah, this is how I was meant to do this, and definitely has proven to me looking back.
yeah. And hats off to you for being able to slow down enough, especially at your age, and be able to listen to yourself and what you actually need. Do you, I just want to touch on the becoming a paramedic area of your life a little bit. And do you think that you always knew that you wanted to care for people in some capacity?
I feel like I've always held that relationship of caring for people with me, except I've just been able to now pursue it bigger with being a paramedic. Have always been a people's person, and I definitely get that from my family. And I think a paramedic has just allowed me to really expand on, people in vulnerable moments. How do I approach that? And seeing that every single day, what people go through, how fragile our life is. So, you know, how much you can change in a person's life in 20 minutes,
Mm,
because, you're always going to be the first in their journey to help. And the thing for me that I've always taken away from caring for people is they're never going to ever sit there and criticize the things that, clinically, they're not going to critique you on what you didn't do clinically right. They're not going to know. They're, as much as clinical professionalism goes, but it's what you say, how you treat someone, what gestures and what you provide for them is what they're going to turn away and remember. And I think that for me is my strong point, is being able to talk to people, get them to really like open up and connect with them, build a rapport. And I feel like I've always had a really strong point with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you definitely have a caring nature and that capability, and becoming a paramedic is probably one of the most emotionally intense careers I could imagine.
Definitely.
You meet people on some of the worst days of their lives, and I could imagine that would start teaching you entirely different lessons, and the way that you see people and life itself. I'd love to know what being a paramedic has taught you about humanity.
Definitely. And Stace, before I deep dive into that, like a good reflective angle from, talking about compassion and caring is like
Yeah.
compassion fatigue can be something that people aren't aware of. So that's also, something that I've always taken in with me being such a people's person and caring for someone. You have to be very careful of burning out from a compassion fatigue perspective. But
Yeah.
as for a paramedic and being a paramedic, for me, it has definitely made me look back on things that I've been through and just drawn peace with those things, because for so long I've always been, why does this happen? Why does this happen to me? Why is it me? And like, what have I done wrong? Like, sort of thing. And I've always victimized myself on the universe being like, well, like, I've always been like, oh, why me? But this has definitely shaped that for me, things people go through, and I look at what I've seen in my job and it's, that's their bad day and compared to my bad day. And I'm like, oh, wait, like my bad day is nothing compared to some of these people. But in terms of like a silver lining, resilience, perspective, human connection, gratitude, confidence under pressure, all that stuff has shaped me today. And definitely with holding peace in myself, because it's so easy to work a day in 12-hour shift, which working shift work already is an adjustment in life. And you come home and you're so adrenaline driven, you just can't shut down. You're carrying trauma from, 8, 10 different people that you've seen today, that you definitely have to learn how to bring yourself in and draw peace with that. And it's definitely takes time, but being open to talk about things, looking at different perspectives, not just holding a bias on one thing. Like there's all so many different things mentally for that side of things that you have to take in consideration. As for physical though, it's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't think most people fully understand the emotional or mental or even the physical load that paramedics carry. How do you, at the end of the day or the end of a shift, how do you leave work at work, or do you? Are you able to do that? Do you struggle to switch off, or do you compartmentalize? Like, what do you do?
There are it's comes in waves. There are days where you can just completely leave work at work, you check out from work and it's easy. Other times you are sitting on something that will really bug you, and it sometimes can just be a matter of a job that you've been to that might be a little bit more personal to you, or it could just be that, you're having some trouble with the workplace. It just depends. But I find that when I'm feeling a little bit like overwhelmed, or, I can't shut myself down from my thoughts, I am very much in like, I've got to speak it out. I've got to get it off my chest.
Mm,
And I'm just lucky enough that I have people around me that aren't involved in my workplace that I can talk to. And I know it's so easy to say, like, you just go and talk to someone, because I know people always aren't very open with their thoughts. But for me, like, I just have to go and get it off my chest and get a perspective from someone else that's not in the workplace. But I think too, like, if it's a job that I feel a bit uncomfortable with or it's made me feel a bit sad, I definitely go back through like my life and what I've been able to do, and I just reflect a lot on my past and like, you know, the good things I've been given and how and I'm healthy and stuff like that. And I think I sort of have a couple of days to sit on it. If it's still bugging me, then I do something about it in terms of
Mm,
going and maybe I need to go and speak to someone more professional. But if it's just a time where you've just come off work and you're feeling a thing, then definitely just talk it out. I always make sure I go for a walk in the morning. I don't ever take music or anything like that. I feel just having a no screen sort of, no music, you just by yourself sort of
spend time in your
thing.
own mind.
Being able to, yeah, have those quiet times. That for me works. Sometimes people like to be a bit distracted. Everyone's sort of different in the way they do things, and there's so many things you can do. It's just finding what's right for you.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think that your work has accelerated your emotional maturity?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely feel I am able to control a lot of my feelings and emotions. And sometimes you have to be a little bit careful, but there is this unspoken culture in the frontline work where strong often means disconnecting from yourself. And that can lead to becoming emotionally numb. And personally, those times when you do, you have to be aware that you're doing it in a right time, right place. You can sort of do it in the workplace and you know, take it away from your personal life. Like with recent times in my life, there has been a time where easily emotions could have been turned off just to, process things. But
Mm.
it sometimes can be an unhealthy trait and you just have to you just have to be mentally aware of a lot of things like that before they
Yeah,
become unhealthy.
yeah. I imagine seeing life and grief, addiction, crisis, loss, even at that level, would really kind of have the ability to change you quite quickly. And I mean, you don't need to share details or anything if you don't want to, but have there been moments in your job that have changed you forever? Like if you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, that's a moment. Because I think sometimes people forget that, the frontline workers are human beings and you're just absorbing all of these moments as well. And there's this expectation in uh, professionals in caring roles that you just have to keep going, like you said, like that perception of being strong. But eventually, your body keeps score of everything you've been carrying. So do you feel like that there's been a moment that's changed you in your job?
I can say there's been probably quite a few moments. To say one specifically would be quite hard as I haven't had one yet that's really sparked me. That's, I suppose, wanted me to change who I am or shape something that might have, triggered me. But I think as a collective, mental health in the vulnerable that we go to definitely has made me realize that our world and our society is struggling, and we just never know when these people truly open up. Like, you don't know exactly how they've got to this pathway. I feel like, yeah, mental health is such a big kettle of fish that, yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah. And there's that, I suppose, understanding. And when you have an understanding of maybe people's backgrounds or what they could be going through, maybe you don't know the full story, but I think having that understanding gives you that compassion. And I think that that's such an important part of your role. But Britt, you're also doing this work in rural communities and small towns where, the resources can be limited and everyone knows everyone. Do you think that that adds another emotional layer to the job?
Yeah, it definitely does add an extra emotion and
Mm,
someone who knows someone. And there's always talk around the community if you are to attend, someone that they know. So I suppose the expectation from me being from a small town is that, we are doing the best we can. Like we, obviously aren't as busy in terms of consistency with other places. So really, we should have no excuse. But when our jobs are busy, when one job comes in, like we are hands on and it is full on. And I feel that for me, watching and growing out here as a paramedic, where I'm, grown up, it's so important that we do our best, because I hear it from everyone and I am the one that, feels that this is where I've come from. I want the best for everyone more so than someone that's come from somewhere else.
Mm,
And I think that for me is, yeah, definitely like making sure that we are treating these people with kindness and a non-biased look on, what they've called us for. I feel like we're evolving every day, and, medicine changes. And I think rural and remote is a slow growing place where we are getting more services externally for out here. And it's just a matter of educating people and being able to refer and stuff like that. And that's important for me, especially being from a rural community.
yeah. And I think that adds another layer of strength to your capabilities. And sometimes I think that being in a small town, knowing everyone, and that, I suppose, pressure to always show up as your best, which I know that all paramedics are like that anyway. They're always showing up as their best, but then you've got that extra layer of knowing everyone and maybe even staying calm for everyone else. But what I think a lot of women, even outside of emergency services, live like a kind of recognizing that maybe they are carrying so much and they forget that themselves need care as well. When you are in a profession that you care for people, and it's part of your identity, I think the lines can start to blur. I know that there was a season in your personal life where you were carrying a huge amount emotionally for someone that you loved and trying to care for them. And during that part of your life, you slowly kind of lost yourself in that process. What did that season look like for you emotionally?
That for me was actually a part where I could say I was definitely emotionally numb. That was just a coping mechanism, to say the least. I feel like that episode in my life has significantly, at the time, I thought like I was definitely affected from it. But looking back, I was like, this has obviously shaped me who I am today. And I feel like it's just made me realize that I needed to shift away from where I was putting my time and effort and my energy into, and moving away from that and putting it elsewhere. And I feel as though, even though I felt, let down, I still walked away knowing that I still held what I valued, and I still shown that no matter what the circumstances were. And that grounded me. I felt that, that's okay. I was able to do this, do that, do that. And I felt that that was me being the person that I wanted to be. And I was happy with that. It was just now time to realize that you need to obviously remove yourself and pursue yourself, knowing that I can do things that I wanted by myself and not having to have the person or the people around me do it for me or with me. I can, I prove to myself by going and buying myself my own house and all that stuff that oh my God, I can do this myself. Like,
Mm. Yeah. And I think that there's a big difference between being loving and caring and then becoming self-sacrificing. And I think a lot of women don't realize that they've crossed that line until they've completely exhausted themselves. At what point did you realize that I actually don't recognize myself anymore? I need to move on from this. I've shown up where I needed to, but I need to look after me.
I think that was close to a time in my life where I started to feel that I was definitely putting effort into something that I didn't think was going to work. And it was when I was living away, I was terribly homesick because I was, in this brand new role, adrenaline driven, pressure, and it was overwhelming for me that I just felt like I wasn't in my safe zone. I didn't feel like where I was going to serve me any purpose anymore. So when I realized that, I was like, I've hit a spot where I said these simple things matter more now to me, which was family, friends, and my mental health. And when I say little, they're big things, but
Mm.
people sometimes we take things for granted. Having a family that lived so close to me, it's like, oh, now I've got to move away and I've got to do things. But now that I went and done that and I was shown that and I felt that, like that was then and there, that was the most important part of like feeling of who I want to be was my heart is back home, whether or not it's exactly in the same town, but it is small communities, being able to connect with people and provide what I've now learned. And since I done that and I realized that, I moved out to the Central West and I was faced a challenge of finding rental or like, a home for myself, which then led me to buying my own house. And then, I'd paid for a brand new car because I always wanted a new car. And, I suited in with the workplace really well, as much as it was such an adjustment, but I started socializing better and just feeling this massive shift off me and into this new person. I was like, oh my God, I have been waiting for this so long. And I now look back and go, that is exactly what I needed.
Yeah, and you, I can just feel this piece when you say that, like you've just landed, and I think to get to that place, you would have had to set a lot of boundaries. How hard is it
Definitely.
to when you've been that person who was showing up for someone else and putting yourself last? How hard was it to suddenly create those boundaries?
I think it was hard. I definitely had to build a barrier quite quickly because I know that I'm such a person who would just fall back down again if I just let myself believe the words of other people that that was what I was meant to be doing. So I think because I had gone home and, face value, I was out there for a week and I just had this moment of peace. I just held on to that little snippet in my mind and I was like, no, I know the feeling that I've had when I've gone out there and how much of a difference it's made me feel. That when I went back to finish off my last bit of work, I just knew that that's what I had looking forward to. And I think that's the thing when we look forward to something, that's what we're going to see at the end of the tunnel, right? But
Mm,
everything else that comes with it, we're just going to have to, you just got to get past it and accept that that's what was happening because you know that and repetition, right? Like when something's happened so much over the time and you're like, okay, this has failed me, then you know that you're going to learn from the mistake and you're going to go, well, I know that this is going to happen, so I'm looking forward to this now and I'm going to keep going.
and you start to look at patterns around you and what worked and what didn't work.
Definitely. And
Um,
I think, sorry,
no, no, go on.
I think that's a really good thing, Stacey, what you mentioned, like pattern recognition is so healthy to be mindful of because you then can build a boundary based off the patterns that you can be aware of. So whether it's something that okay, no, I know this is going to make me feel like this. I'm not going to do that. That's a boundary that I'm not going to cross. Like that's how I
Mm,
feel like that
yeah,
relationship with the boundaries has been built for me is the pattern recognition.
yeah. And what do you think were some of the first things that you started to do for yourself again that made you feel like you were doing it for you?
I had just reached out to some of my friends that I hadn't seen for ages. I was now like being able to go and join sporting clubs. And someone who's always been really passionate about physical, like sporting and exercise and stuff like that. But also just being able to connect with my
Mm,
work, people that I've been able to like, make friends with outside of work. And I don't know, I just felt like I could just have an outside life from work and the drama that I was going through. that made me feel better.
Yeah. What do you think rebuilding yourself actually look like? You said that you mentioned that were able to reach out to friends, which is absolutely I think pivotal, having other friends to talk to, and even not to come to your rescue or not to give you advice all the time, but just to be a sounding board and to listen and hold space for you. I think that is really important. And I think that one of the hardest things when you do kind of lose yourself and you forget who you are and what drives you is that doesn't just happen. Like, you don't just wake up and forget yourself one day. It kind of happens in tiny moments over a period of time, where you're overgiving and you're abandoning your own needs, and then you kind of become emotionally responsible for everyone else around you. And then one day you kind of are like, oh crap, I haven't checked in with myself for a very long time. And I think that that is a really important moment, or a really pivotal moment in your life, where you can look back and go, okay, that's where I was, and how do I now move forward to not get back to that place? And you've set all these boundaries in place now from lived experience, and you've carried a lot. So I suppose, as you mentioned, with the talking to your friends and all of that sort of stuff, do you feel like solitude became important, or do you feel like communication or connection, or the getting up and being physical? Like, what do you think kind of was one of the most pivotal things that you done?
I would say definitely routine, and yeah, that connection with your routine. I feel like I know it's hard being, people have different ways of living, and routine isn't always going to be their friend. But just to check in with myself, it'd be like, okay, what is going to help regulate you feeling like this right now? And it was like, okay, you know that you like going for a walk, or you like making sure that on a Sunday you have a reset day. Or I was very much an advocate for going and doing some sort of, a yoga, or go and do like a magnesium bath, or get a massage, something that was relaxing, that didn't expect your body to be doing hard work. Because as much as it's so good that people go and say, oh, go do a workout or go for a run, sometimes you just don't have the mental energy to do that. And I feel like that for me is, yeah, definitely going and just doing something slow that
Mm,
is going to just calm your nervous system, calm your brain. Breathing patterns is also a really good thing. And that's where, those, I guess, treatments that you can get, even getting like, your skincare done or something, like those are so important, I feel, because it's time to just prioritize yourself and check out from what might be making you feel the opposite.
mm. Yeah, either kind of check out, but also give yourself permission to just slow, because I know that
Yeah.
in this fast-paced world, we forget to just slow down and just be with ourselves. And I think once you've kind of lived through emotional exhaustion like that, you start to realize that your body actually does keep score. And I did say that earlier on. And there's actually a book called that, if you haven't heard of it. It's called The Body Keeps Score. You should have a read. I think I read it last year when I was going through a little bit with understanding my body as well, and understanding slowness, and when I need to go fast and when I need to slow down.
But even like when you feel that in yourself, you can also get signs from your body saying
Mm,
that you are not where you should be. Like, there's so many things you can learn about, your brain, your body, your skin, everything like that. But it all comes down to that nervous system regulation, your hormone levels, like all that plays an effect in those things that we've just spoken about. And
yeah.
for me, I have going through that journey as well. I've also been able to recognize that physically what my body's doing is a response to the stress or the mental load that I hold. And it's telling me that you need to change something, or you
Mm,
need to go and work on this, or this is your sign now that what you realize is your slow time, or something that helps you with that is now the time to do it.
mm.
And going through my own health with that has really been a benefit to me to be able to just talk about it. and tell people about it with, like, especially hormones.
Yeah, yeah. And I think so many women are kind of taught earlier on to approach health, like you said earlier on, like through control. So like even going and doing a workout or going for a run, but sometimes we don't need that. We need that slowness, like you said, and it can almost feel like a chore instead of a bit of a blessing when we are trying to push through it instead of slowing down. So I really like that view on it of let's just slow down, and this is actually good for my body, and I get to do this, not that I have to do this, because sometimes I think that some people put exercise or doing those sort of things as a job, like I have to do this, instead of oh my God, I get to do this. And I think that it's wild how disconnected so many women are from understanding their own bodies. I actually just recently recorded an episode with a lovely lady that leans into cycles and hormonal health. And yeah, I think, like you said, the burnout can be so obvious when we don't just slow down. And Britt, you speak a lot about the patterns and the awareness that you have now. What situations do you think were really draining you, and or what habits that you had were keeping you stuck?
For me, it was just always saying, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Or I would commit to something on a weekend that I didn't even really feel like doing. But it was just like, oh, well, everyone else is doing it. Like, I may as well do it. But then I'd just come to a new week and it'd be like, oh, I didn't do what makes me feel better. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
I think that comes with people pleasing for one. And I think it was just mindset. Oh, I just am so run out and I don't feel like it. But when I went and done that thing, it would make me feel obviously a lot better. And if I was to give an example, it would be like, say I've had a really stressful, overwhelmed week at work, and there have been times where it's been so much personal life and work life that I just come to a Friday and been like, oh my God, I'm having a breakdown. Like, this is just too much. And I might not even be realizing that I need to
mm,
cry. Like, it's just how I feel. And I
yep.
start to question, like, why am I feeling like this? And that's when I go, okay, like, I need to just stop committing to things that I can take away for the weekend. And that would just be like me being like, cool, I'm having an early night tonight. I'm going to eat something that's hot, like whole food. You know, that's the biggest thing about food is, you know, what we put into our bodies, then, you know, sleep regulation. So, you know, I wouldn't have anything caffeinated after 12 o'clock. So I'd be able to go to sleep early. And then of a morning, it'd look like, you know, making sure I have an alarm set to get up early, go for a slow walk, you know, maybe take the dog. And being able to just, it might not even be like 20 minutes, you know, around the block and come back. And I just feel like I've just accomplished my first thing for the day.
Mm,
And it just sort of resets that mindset of being like, okay, I know that I have a passion about my health and well-being, and I'm aware that I'm overwhelmed. But what's one thing that I'll just be able to sort of start decreasing that stress level and that cortisol build up of, oh my God, I haven't done what I've makes me feel better yet. You know what I mean?
mm,
And then it's like, oh, well, tonight I've got to go to a friend's thing and I won't have. And then you drag it on all day and you're like, oh, it's now like 2 o'clock. I haven't done anything for myself yet. And then it comes 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And then you're like, oh, well, too late now. Then on Sunday, you're like, now I'm disappointed in myself. So I think it's really just about preempting and being able to recognize it before it happens. And if it does become that point where you are like, oh my God, I'm going to start feeling like I'm going to break here, it
mm.
is just being like, no, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I think that one of the most important things to remember as you get older, or you build a family, or you get a partner and all of that sort of stuff, is to remember to prioritize yourself, because I think that that's when our cup starts to empty for the things that fill us up, is when things in life that usually we might be able to handle, little things, start to pile up and start to get heavy. And then that's when we can have our breakdown and come home on a Friday afternoon, like you said, and just want to cry. And I think that it's also important. I had a lovely friend just remind me just recently that it is important to feel those feelings and, be aware of them, but not to bottle them up and kind of let them out. And then, like you said, prioritize yourself and do what makes you feel good. Do you think that women have been taught to kind of shove their own feelings down?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's been a massive stigma around women having breakdowns in terms of the expectation of a woman. And I feel as much as we are very, I suppose, our brains think a lot different, we still at the end of the day are going to ask ourselves, like, what is wrong? Like, I don't know what's wrong. And it might just be a matter of someone you talk to, or you just being aware and being able to break down, like, okay, let's just go back and think, what is actually causing me to feel like this?
Mm,
And I think that's why then, you know, if people would be more understanding on, well, why are we feeling like this? Because our women's brains are built chemically and different. We think deeper into things, we share deeper thoughts, and as much as we think logistically, we also think emotionally. And I think because people don't understand that sometimes, it just
mm.
becomes a stereotypical frame of like, oh, she's just being a typical woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, like you said, it all starts within and knowing yourself. And it's not this huge transformation. One day you wake up and you're this brand new woman that knows how to listen to yourself. It happens over time and with practice. And I think that when you slow down in life, and whether it's forced through burnout or whether it's deliberate, prioritizing yourself, or whether it's through healing or grief, it really changes your perspective on what actually matters. Because I know that you're navigating grief at the moment. I know that this shifts things internally as well. Uh, how do you think that experience, dealing with that in life, allows you to slow down, but then also gives you a wider perspective on life around you?
Yeah, I definitely think that grief is something that is obviously personal to how people go through it. For me, it was a time where I just put everything to the side. Thankfully, I was able to, and just be there presently. And I think that gave me so much closure in the grieving process, of losing someone, being there and knowing that this is your priority for the time being.
Mm,
I know a lot of people probably don't get given the opportunity for that, and it's probably a different grief process. But for me personally, I have been able to, let my emotions out and feel vulnerable leading up to what we know is going to be the end. And therefore, being able to do that and feel like it's allowed, I've definitely come to a point in the grief process where, I miss the person, and I feel that it definitely is cruel that this is what we have to go through in life. But I was given the opportunity to just slow down, go and
mm,
prioritize it, and say what I need to say, do what I need to do, and be there for the person and the family. And
yeah.
I feel like there's definitely a change of perspective always when you lose someone in your life. And already knowing that with paramedics, I'm seeing people in a similar time in their lives for, a roughly half an hour, journey, that you think, oh my God, life is so fragile. But when
Mm,
it's your own, or you're there for like a lot longer and you're seeing the different changes, throughout the end stage, you really are shown, like, it is in your face, and you are shown that, holy crap, like, we do only have so much time. Um, and I think for me, if I didn't have the silver linings behind me and the build up of what I've been able to recognize with my job, I don't think I'd be able to process grief the same way.
mm,
Um, and it's always the cliche saying of, you don't realize the little things matter, um, until until it's brought up to surface,
mm,
and how much present really matters. Because I feel like that week of my life going through that, if I wasn't there, I don't think I would be able to feel as closed off with
Mm.
it and calm within myself, that
At peace, yeah.
at peace with it. Because it was one of those weeks where it was just like, it was inevitable. Like you just couldn't stop it. And you just kept like there were definitely times where I kept thinking this person in my life could have been another, 20, 15 years alive. And it's like, so why them? Like, why is it now?
Mm.
And I think you answer your own question and you're like, okay, well, I'm thinking about other people in life that have gone through this, and they might be younger, or, you know, it's something that they have also been through, and I'm not the only one. So you sort of like, well, this is just our journey and their journey.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess
Yeah,
trying to look at it like that definitely helps, not trying to, I think, guess deep dive into it. I think
yeah, yeah.
overthinking it and overanalyzing is something that I've definitely had to stop doing in my life, to stop myself from stressing over so much stuff. Because without going through the grief process, even with my job, I was always like, oh my God, we're all going to die someday, to be honest.
Mm.
And that was, to me, was like, crap, like this is what I've been fearing. And to hear that person say to me, I'm not scared,
Mm.
it was like wow, like that for someone in that position who knows that their life is coming to an end very soon, that they're not scared. It was sort of like okay, maybe I need to stop thinking so much into it.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I think grief definitely has a way of clarifying things, and you can stop and how beautiful that there wasn't fear at the end, and you could then look around as the other person and see what's urgent and what actually deserves your energy. And I feel like that perspective really changes you. And I know we've talked a bit about grief and trauma, Brett, but I want to kind of change the energy a bit, and I want to know what's something that this season has actually taught you about love. You have grief on one hand, but then you have this beautiful life that is full of love, and so I want to know what it's taught you about love.
do you mean like what grief's taught me about love? Sorry,
Yeah, I just,
or
just I
just
just mean about life. The polarity of, you've got grief, and like you said, that eventually we're all going to die someday, but then we've got this beautiful life that we can love and learn and show up without the fear, I guess.
in terms of love, like that generally starts from, for me, having such a proud, like close family. And it is something that I honestly get goosebumps thinking about it, that I've come from a family that have provided me with so much love, and it is so healthy that it makes me even more like so privileged, feeling so privileged, because I've seen people and I've been to families that don't have that. And it makes me, I don't know, sometimes I feel bad about it, because I'm like, I wish I could give them what I've had.
Mm,
But then obviously I reflect and I'm like, it's definitely, when I think about myself, I'm like, that has definitely started my, the feeling of love has definitely started from a family. And I think then going into my, future with partners, I'm now in a position where I've been shown a love that is very safe, and I am calm, and it's, I would say, a love that is adding benefit to my life. I haven't had to sacrifice anything that's made me feel like I'm missing out. It's just an easy, like, going safe place for me. And I think that has definitely helped me shape that this is the love that my family have showed me, and now I'm
mm,
getting it from a partner, and this is exactly what I see that love is. And it's, about the caringness and being able to go and do the things that you love and being supported doing that.
Mm.
And there's never sort of a second thought on what choices that you make in your life. Is that person going to question them? It's always like that feeling of, oh my God, I can't wait to tell them.
Yeah,
Like
that support.
there's, yeah.
Yeah. I love that you are in that moment of your life where you get to feel the love that you deserve. And I think, amongst all of these experiences, the frontline work, the healing, the grief, the love that you're now feeling, you're also creating something really meaningful of your own. And it's Remote Nourish by Britt. It feels like it's such a reflection of everything that you've lived through and everything that we've kind of talked about today. What made you start it and what kind of triggered that or sparked that creativeness in you?
I honestly, to be fair, I had time off work. I thought I was going to play football, and that career ended very quickly because I ended up getting hurt. So I had time off work, and I think there was just this niggle in me that I've had since I've been home. And, being in a smaller workplace, there's times where you are sitting down and you're going through all your clinical stuff, and you're like, okay, what else can I pursue while I'm not doing anything? And, people study and stuff like that. And I've always had this thought on what can I provide for people that I'm so passionate about. And I think when I seen a couple of girls when I lived away, they started these community walks and stuff like that. And they were getting a lot of response from it, that I was like, oh my God, this is something that I've always been so passionate about, being able to bring people together and show when I was going through it, what I've learned and, what I've done to help that. And that could be from my routine to what I eat, to my hormones, to anything that I haven't really delved into yet, but anything that I've been through in the past with, trauma and stuff like that. And I just sat there one day and I was like, cool, I need to make a plan because this is something that is building up in me and I need to get it out. So I thought, yeah, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an Instagram page and I'm just going to start posting things that I'm doing and eating. And I think the food aspect of it, the nourishment of it, has really sort of shaped it, because I found that when I was going through all my shift works and there was times there where there was meals missed and stuff like that, food was such a massive downfall that I wasn't aware of. And so I think being in this smaller community, I just was like, cool, I'm gonna share my journey and my wellness passion to everyone. And yeah, just I made a page, and now I just want to get it out there and start trying to show everyone that these little things that we don't realize have such a massive impact on our everyday lives. And that's simple things like skipping breakfast. And there's something that I can provide to say, here's what I do. This is what I recognized when I was doing that, thinking it was the right thing, but it was wrong. This is now what I do. And I think because when I've done it and I've learnt from it and I can share that, it's kind of personal and it's sort of raw and I guess unfiltered, because people then are being like, oh, well, yeah, Brit's done that, so let's give it
Mm,
a try or something. And it's not a shop front poster, but when it comes from me and I'm like, no, well, honestly, I've done it and it's done this for me and I feel like it's benefit to me, I'll share it. And
yeah.
I'm still navigating, obviously, a lot of it, because honestly, content creation and having a full-time job is content creation is nearly a full-time job itself. So the social media aspect of it is still very in its teething stages. But for my ideas and my thoughts is definitely around that, being able to share the wellness and the learnings that I've that I have in my life.
And I think from what I've learned from your page is that, you know, the real nourishment isn't just about what you eat or how you train or what supplements you take or anything like that. That's a massive part of it, but sometimes it's about your rest and your boundaries and, you know, your nervous system and honest relationships and filling your own cup and slowing down enough to hear yourself. And I think that so many women, especially these days, are craving that. And you just touched on, you started, well, there was other people that were doing community walks. And I know that you've just started hosting reset walks, which honestly just feels like a beautiful concept in a world, like I said, where everyone's just going and everyone seems to be so overstimulated and so disconnected. So tell me about those walks, Britt, and what are they? What are they called? Where can women find them?
Yeah, so we've got one tomorrow morning actually. It'll be the first one here in Barkey.
Which is
And
a Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, yep, at 7 o'clock, because now that we're getting sort of into the cooler season, the sun doesn't like to wake up very early. So yeah, so we've aimed to meet at the park, and we this will be the first one, so it'll be interesting to see how many people actually go. I won't be sad if, only a few people will come up, because word needs to get around. But
Mm.
basically, yeah, it's just, honestly, there is no expectations. There's no sort of, there's no expectation to run or do any sort of, you know, massive workout. It's just basically we all just meet together, exchange. If we haven't met someone before, it's a good chance to, be like, oh, hey, like, I've probably seen you around somewhere, being a small town. And there might be a time where I just throw in a bit of an icebreaker like you do, Stace, and just be like, okay, well, what's one goal that everyone wants to achieve for at least, the next week or something? And, turn to the person next to you, and then we just go on a walk. And I haven't exactly measured how far we're going yet. I was just going to measure it off, if there's parents with prams and kids on bikes or something like that, to see. But it's basically just a walk, and then we come back, and yeah, there'll be time to share. We'll still obviously try and promote healthy nourishment with a fruit platter and, snacks and stuff like that. We'll be able to mingle over, and then I'll just do like a nice stretch to sort of end the walk, and people can walk away feeling like they've woken up and their day started, and they can go and feel motivated to do whatever they need to achieve for the day. And for the a lot of the new people in town that come through for work, and it's hard for them in a small town to connect and build relationships, because not everyone goes to the pub, or not everyone goes to an event. And it is quite overwhelming, that meeting new people who already know people, that you might feel like, oh, I'm a bit restricted to go and say hello or meet them. So it's just a nice way to be able to do that. And if there are struggles in someone's life, and it is just a way for them to, push aside whatever they're going through, or, if it's someone they trust and they want to have a chat, like, there's just a time to do that. It's so hard, I feel like, these days, that, I've got friends who it's 2 years still and I haven't even seen them, and we talk about it every time. We're like, oh, we need to catch up. That it might just be that motivation to be like, oh, hey, like, I'm going to the walk, do you want to go? And then that time is, then they catch up, you know what I mean? It's so hard, I feel, being able to schedule in like a coffee with someone, or, unless you're both on the same schedule. And so if this walk and these walks can sort of bring calmness or a connection, or some socializing, some community networking, then I'd definitely love to host them. And if we do keep doing them, I'd love to do more in, like, other small towns when I go there, and do that as well with the people that I know there.
It sounds like such a beautiful opportunity to be able to connect, and I thrive on connection. So, like, I'm at the moment, I just want to get in my car and drive down and be there for the walk in the morning. It sounds like it sounds like such a nice atmosphere and beautiful idea around it. What do you hope that the women who come to these walks, what do you hope that they feel when they leave?
I just hope they feel that, yeah, that's something that we all needed to do. And now I
Mm.
feel like I can go home now and start my day. And that's why I've aimed for an earlier start on the
Yeah.
Saturday, because, you know, we're all busy. We all got things to do.
Oh,
And that's the thing. I don't expect everyone to be there all morning. It's just a quick
mhm.
brisk walk to give yourself that time, and then everyone can go and be like, okay, like I feel good now. And that
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of women are just exhausted and always feeling like they're showing up for for other people. And I think that this is such a beautiful space where they can just show up and be human for a minute. Just and
Yeah, definitely. I think that with our rural aspect, it obviously falls back to rural all the time with the amount of services we get and the opportunities. And as for myself, like I feel that everyone always says like, oh, we need this in town, we need this in town. And so if this is something that they feel like, oh, yep, this is what we needed, then I'm happy to provide that. And I've already had feedback from women in town that have been like, oh my God, we're so excited to come to your walk, because I feel like they just need that,
mm,
like something that to look forward to, because there's not much that you can always turn around and be like, oh, like there's a Pilates class on today. Like, there's just always not that opportunity in a rural area.
mm. I can tell that Remote Nourish was born from a version of you that finally started to listen to herself, but it just feels like an extension of your learned experience, your lived experiences. And I think that there's something really beautiful about turning lived experiences, pain or whatever it is, into gentleness for other people. And I think that kind of takes me right back to the beginning, where I kind of mentioned your capabilities and your ability to make people just feel so comfortable, your kindness that you are able to share with people, that understanding that you have. And Britt, you've spoken today so much about healing and boundaries and burnout and grief, rebuilding. And I think most importantly is the rebuilding, but obviously you need to go through all the other stuff to get to there. But you seem so grounded in who you're becoming now. And I would love to kind of finish with that version of you. What does peace look like for you now? Okay, we are just jumping back in here because technology decided to not be our friend the other day and we lost the very end of our conversation. But honestly, I do feel like it's kind of fitting because since we recorded last, you've actually hosted your very first reset walk. Britt, tell me, how did it feel seeing women show up for themselves like that?
Hi, Stacey. Yes, we're back. The reset walk was really good to start. As much as I had only a couple of ladies arrived that morning, I did have lots of messages that day to say, we hope there's another one coming up, and sort of everyone making sure that I was reassured people didn't forget about it. So as much as it was a small group, it was good just to start. We had a really lovely morning. The weather was, nice and chilly, but it's worked out for us. We shared, our morning conversations. Some girls got some coffees and we went back and had, some nice fruit. There was some snacks there that I brought along. And the feedback was really good, just being consistent with it. And, consistency in those small towns, will attract more of a number. So hopefully I can start getting another one on board, even in a different town that I've had a request from. So we'll look at a different one, different town and a different date in the future. But yeah, no, we had some really good feedback. So I'm really glad.
That's really beautiful, Britt. And I think that, even though there were only a few people that show up, I think you're right in the consistency in small towns. If people know that it's on, the first Sunday of a month or first Saturday of a month or something, a bit regular, or it's out there a little bit more, and kind of people have advance notice to be able to pop it in their calendars. I think in small towns, that's exactly the way to do it, and just keep showing up. And I think that having this place of connection and spaces where, like you said, you can just slow down and go for a walk for a minute. And I feel like it's going to be such a beautiful continuation of everything that we've spoken about earlier in the episode, like slowing down and connection and
Definitely.
community. And really
Yeah,
listening to
definitely.
yourself and what your body needs. So I do want to come back to where we left off, Britt. What does peace look like for you now?
So peace for me definitely looks like that internal stability with yourself. And like I said in the earlier pieces, like just being so grounded with your mind and how you, I guess, look at things now, and just calm yourself around it. That I think anything that's sort of thrown at you, that internal stability, knowing that, what you tell yourself and if you've been through it before or who have you got around you, what environment are you in, that self-awareness is now what I find is my peace, because I can see that, yeah, okay, that's going to make me feel like that, or no, that's not a me problem, that's a them problem, or what can I change, sort of, what effect can I have that is not going to make me feel, overwhelmed or sort of out of my comfort zone in a bad way, that I can still just away at the end of the day and still feel my peace.
Yeah, I think that I can really hear that in the way that you speak, that there is such that calmness and that self-awareness is so important. And I think that that's been built through lived experience, not perfection, and just showing up and
Definitely.
listening to yourself. Britt,
Yeah.
what's something that you hope women listening today take away from this conversation?
I think as a paramedic, I've sat with people, or, people in their most vulnerable moments. And I've also had to go home and, process that with my own life afterwards as well. So if one thing I've learned is no one has it together. Like, you can be as perfect as you can, but don't all have it together, even the people that look like they do. Everyone's, just learning how to carry what they're going through. And I think I want her to know that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause and just look at your life. I've had moments where I've had to step back and ask myself, like, where's this energy that I have going? What am I tolerating? And am I actually showing up for myself the way I show up for, whether it's my patients or my colleagues or my family or someone around me? Am I doing that for myself? And through that, I think I've learned, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's actually necessary. And that's where, this ties in with the peace as well, choosing that part of it.
Yeah.
And learning, your own patterns, your own mind, your own body, it changes a lot of things for yourself. And if you start to notice what drains you, what grounds you, and what you no longer ignore. So if anything that a woman can take away from my story, it can be that you don't have to keep proving your strength by pushing through everything. Sometimes, your strength is just how honestly you start to live your life for yourself, and where you can start noticing, your own values and what you feel.
And I think that that's such an important reminder, especially in a world where so many women feel like they constantly just have to keep on pushing through. So thank you for sharing that. And then finally, Britt, one of my favorite questions is, who is a woman that you know that deserves to be seen, celebrated, or heard?
When you ask me this question, Stacey, it is such an easy answer. A question to answer, sorry. It's definitely my mum. So anyone that knows my mum, I'm sure wouldn't argue with that. I'm sure she needs to be seen and celebrated and heard as much as a lot of other women. She's incredibly hardworking. Someone who, can be thrown 50 different challenges and still come out fighting fit. She's been someone in my life, obviously, from day one, who's grounded me and taught me a lot of values in my life, and is someone who puts her family first, A1. She's just shaped so much of, both me and my brother, and definitely, other people around her. She's got everything a woman, looks up to, is the strength and resilience. I feel like she's definitely someone that is my reassurance, where I'm a warrior. I worry about a lot of things, and it's so safe for me to go to her and be like, this is worrying me, or I might act worried and she sort of humbles me, or she reminds me that it doesn't need to be a stressful time, or you don't need to keep your thought on that, or what everything could be all right, or we'll sort it out. And yeah, she just shows up for me and everyone out of her own love. And I think, yeah, she definitely needs a recognition for it. But that's the thing, like, she's been through so much in her life with grief and just, I don't know, lots of things. And she just seems to get on with it, like, no matter what it is. And it doesn't seem like she might internally be fighting something, but at the end of the day, she never puts it onto someone else. And I think she doesn't realise how extraordinary that is, and how I notice that and I appreciate that, because it's something that has built, you know, resilience and strength in me to just get on with it, even though, you know, I can still feel like I can talk about my emotions and feelings, because that's someone, like, she's still, you know, allowed that. She hasn't just been like, oh, you know, put it under a rug, but she's definitely been like, you deal with your emotions and then get on with it.
Yeah.
Like, just sit on it. So she's definitely, so she's definitely someone that I definitely look up to. And I feel that, because I think she's been through what she's been through in her journey, she is who she is today. And I just, I couldn't speak any better
More
about it.
highly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Britt, that's such a beautiful nomination. Your mum really is one of those women who carries strength so quietly and steadily, and I know that that's where you've got your wiseness from. Like, I know that I've gone to your mum with things before, and just the way that she approaches things is just so beautifully, and I can see the way that she's raised you is so beautifully reflected. You know, it's like a mirror looking back at each other. And I could waffle on and on for hours about how incredible your mum is. She's honestly one of my favorite humans, but I am also mindful of time.
and I think too, like, just a little bit to add these days, like, with my job as well, because I have to see so many different lifestyles and vulnerability, that because my mum has instilled in me, like, you know, always be kind and say hello to everyone, even if you don't know them, or just those little things in life. I've been able to bring that into my work and not have such a bias on, you know, different things with people, or, you know, stereotypes around society, something like
you have
that.
such an open lens.
And that's also another big thing that I respect about having her in my life.
Yeah, beautiful nomination, Britt. And I think even that in itself, being able to nominate your mum, like, that's just even proof in the pudding of what a beautiful woman that she has raised herself, to be able to have that relationship with each other. I absolutely admire that. And I know when I had my own daughter, I always looked at Lou's relationship with you, and I'm like, that's what I aspire to be as a mum. So I think that you couldn't have nominated anyone better. So thank you for that, Brett. And thank you so much for sharing your story so openly today and the other day. Let's just forget about that little glitch in the middle there. I think that what stands out for me from your story, Britt, is that strength doesn't always look like it's, you know, people pushing through. It looks like slowing down. It looks like setting boundaries, listening to yourself, and choosing to do things that are beneficial for you, and to come home to who you are as a person. And I know so many women are going to hear parts of themselves in this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you shared yours with us today. Thanks again, Britt, for being here.
No, thank you so much, Stacey, for giving me this opportunity. I've been, happy to share my part of my journey, and I hope the women listening can, definitely take some part of it away with them and relate in some way.
I think they will. Thanks so much, Brett.
Thanks, Dave.
And that's a wrap on today's conversation with one of the women we know. If something in today's episode resonated with you, I'd love if you shared it with a woman in your life who might love it too. And don't forget to follow along so you never miss a conversation. And if there's a woman in your life that you know has a story worth sharing, I would love for you to nominate her at The Women We Know on Instagram or Facebook. Or shoot me an email at thewomenweknowpodcast@gmail.com. There's a dot in between each of the words, the.women.we.know.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening and being part of this community that celebrates her story, her resilience, her honesty, her triumph, her challenges, her life. We celebrate her.